Anything you care about, anything you want to achieve, any place you want to get is going to require some amount of discipline and consistency and hard work. But there is sort of a cheat code to make your life more productive, and that's that passion fuels action. Yes, no matter what your passion is, it's going to be harder to continually put effort into that once it becomes like, a commitment or a consistent thing. Then it's going to require some amount of discipline to show up and do that thing every day, especially if you have some sort of timeline you have to keep, or deadlines, or scheduling, or anything like that. Like, your passion, if it becomes a career and it's something you have to do, obviously it's going to require more discipline to keep up with it. However, I would say that naturally, as human beings, it's easier for us to put energy, put effort into things that we care about. And so I would say that passion fuels action. If you want to be productive, if you want to get things done, it's like sometimes a good direction to go in is really just what you care about. Like, it might seem like what you want to do with your life, like your ideal timeline, is very difficult to achieve because it's this like, job that everyone wants to do, or it's something that, isn't conventional in some way. But at the same time, like, if it's going to take a lot of effort to do one thing, and it's going to take a lot of effort to do this other thing, but you care about one of them, then, where can you more easily put in that effort? Like, where are you more likely to succeed? And I would say that you are more likely to succeed where you can consistently put an effort. Because, that consistency, that work you put in will make some sort of difference. Maybe you won't reach your goal necessarily, but you'll get closer to it. And if you find that you are an unproductive individual, trying to force yourself to do things you don't care about at all or you don't find interesting at all is not necessarily the greatest strategy. I mean, obviously, like, not everyone can be like a movie star or whatever. So when it comes to, like, your career, maybe you shouldn't just pursue that thing blindly. Maybe that'll leave you unsecure and cause problems in your life. But at least find a career that to some extent you find interesting. Like, don't pursue it just for the money, because you're more likely to burn out if you don't care about something at all. It's like you have to have discipline no matter what. But if that discipline is based on something, if it's based on showing up every day because you are actually passionate about this thing in addition to that, and it feels like there are goals outside of just some sort of like monetary obligation, then that's definitely going to help you. I think that a lot of people end up in careers that they don't care about at all. Like, I had a friend and he was considering, going and being an electrician for his trade. Like, he really wanted to do that, and I asked him, like, do you care about being an electrician whatsoever? And he was saying, like, well, no, not really, but it pays well. And we sort of talked about it, and I think he realized that, like, yeah, like, he doesn't like being an electrician. Like, that's not something he cares about. So, like, in the long term, it wasn't something he could see himself doing. It's like, in the short term, he's pursued it to some extent because he thinks that it is a good opportunity for where he's at in his life right now. But he's planned his life around moving in a different direction eventually, because he realized that, like, genuinely that just wasn't something he was interested in. Like, it's not about that job is hard or another job is easier or about the pay. It's just to some extent like that wouldn't be a great option for him. Whereas maybe he's more interested in being like a mechanic, even though being a mechanic and being an electrician are both very difficult jobs, and wouldn't know how to place one over the other. It's like, if you're more interested in working on cars than you are in working with light fixtures or whatever, then somehow it'll help you. It'll help you be more consistent about that thing and make more progress. Like, when you have extra energy, you'll be able to pursue that business, that field you've gone into, and you'll be able to, just keep expanding and build a career off of that. But if it's something you really don't care about and it takes discipline just to show up to a schedule every day, then your excess energy you're not going to want to spend into increasing those skills in any other way outside of work, or trying to pursue opportunities within that field in any other way, because it's like all of your energy's already been used up forcing yourself to be disciplined with something you don't care about. It's like, find what things you are interested in and find your highest timeline. Like, find something that you actually really, really care about that, like, ideally you'd want to work on the side until it can be a career for you. Like, maybe it's something like, yeah, like, I want to be a movie star, but that doesn't pay well, so I'm just going to keep acting on the side, going to acting classes, doing local plays, like, not for the money, but just to refine my skills because I care about this thing and I would do it for free. But then, in terms of my actual career, like my plan A, I want to find something that somewhat aligns with my true goals. So I'm going to go into, the film industry in some way. Like, maybe a more secure line of that where you're going to be a cameraman. You go to film school for, like, I don't know. Maybe this isn't a great example because even like film school is one of those things where it's not the most secure or stable, like in terms of every job you could get. But you know what I'm saying? Like the underlying message is still there. Like you want to, if you have an incredible goal, like something very far out there, if you want to be like a rock star or something, and you know you find it hard to be passionate about things just for money, then find something that is somewhat on the path towards that final goal, you know. And then even if you never hit that, even if you never become a music artist or you know you never become an actor, like just being exposed to that industry, just being around those things you care about and having something adjacent to that could still help you be more motivated and consistent and avoid burning out. Like you never want to find yourself like in your 40s or 50s having like a midlife crisis because you're an accountant and you don't like accounting whatsoever, and you'd even rather be a dentist, you know. You don't want to have to go back to school and decide that you'd rather be a dentist, you know. If those options were in front of you and you couldn't pick the thing you cared most about, like you couldn't choose your dream, then you'd at least like to choose a job that you find slightly more interesting, you know, which is an important realization to make. Like some people who have incredible potential in one direction end up in another direction just because of money. But the reality is, like, yes, being a doctor pays very well. However, if you are not passionate about being a doctor and your strengths aren't necessarily in line with that, then going and being a plumber, there's a potential you'd be more successful, make more money as a plumber if that's something you actually really care about and you'd be consistent with it. You know, you could become a very experienced plumber and start a plumbing business, and if you have that energy to keep devoting to that thing and that expertise and that potential, then, you know, whatever job it is more potential, you know. Whereas just going and doing a thing based on like the projected, like expected, like safest possible course of revenue isn't always the best way to go. I think, you know, acting out of that restraint, acting out of that like conservatism makes sense to some extent, especially if, you know, your family situation and your, you know, growing up, all of your financials weren't that great. You might just want to choose something that's like for sure guaranteed, like you'll always have some amount of job availability. But the reality is you can fail on the trodden path. Like you can do the right thing and still end up in a bad place. Like my stepdad is a PhD chemist. He spent like 12 years in school, went to all the best universities, worked for Pfizer, like worked for all these top, you know, pharmaceutical companies. And, you know, the industry changed and he got laid off, his entire branch of this pharmaceutical company, because they wanted to go to India and hire doctors cheaper over there to, you know, work on pharmaceuticals and things. And it's like, yeah, now he does accounting with my mom, and it's like he chose the straightforward, simple, guaranteed path, and it still failed for him. So if there's always a risk, if there's always potential that you end up in that crappy situation where your financials aren't secure, like your future isn't stable, then you might as well try to find a place where at least you enjoy it a little bit more, you know. And with that, I will see you guys tomorrow.